Hi everyone, welcome to this new series where we are going to solve each and every RC of RC 99. This is going to be fun. So let's start with the very first RC. You can actually go to my website bhagyashreeghosh.com and you can download the PDF of RC 99 if you don't have. Let me tell you that this is a very important PDF, and when you practice entire 100 or 99 RCs from it, no, you get a different level of confidence because the level of RC 99 is very similar to CAT, in fact a little bit on the higher side, so it gives us a very good practice. So here is the first passage that we are going to see. If you have read it by yourself, very good. Else you can do one thing, you can pause the video for a while, read it and play it back. I will show you the next part of the RC. Here is the next part. So scrolling it a bit down, you can just read it, pause it, play it back. And here are the questions. If you wish to look the questions before solving, so here are the questions. You can read it, pause it, play it back. If you want to solve it on your own first, you can do that here. And let's scroll down and see the next two questions. So there are total of 4 questions in this RC. So let us read the RC quickly and understand exactly what it is intending to say, and then after we are going to solve the questions. So the first paragraph says, once surrounded, protected by vast wilderness, many of the national parks are affected by the outside boundaries. So there is a vast wild national park. Of course it's a national park, and then it's talking about National Park Organic Act. It was established, then the national park system empowered the secretary to manage the activity. So conditions outside the park, are not subjected to regulation by the park service. That is the so the act empowered to regulate what is there inside the boundary of the park but not outside. So this is something useful. Next we move further is several approaches to protect the national park from external degradation. So the park is facing external degradation. So many proposals have been made to protect the park not from inside but from outside. And then they are giving some examples, not that important because that's just an example. If a question is there, then it's fine, else not. So there will be federal legislation granting the National Park Service power over adjacent to the national park. So this is just an example because the word such as is written. So it just means that they are trying to protect the national park which is getting damaged from outside. Legislation addressing external threats to the national park twice passed the House of Representatives but died, and this and that. Kind of dragging whatever the example is quoted here, that there are legislation is being passed, it is being discussed in the Senate that something has to be done to protect the park and all that. Also brought to the table as a possible remedy. Possible remedy is also suggested, that is giving the state bordering the park a significant and meaningful role in developing the federal park management policy. Well, so these are all proposed that either the boundary, the states whose boundary is attached to that park, they might get some more power so that they can make some law regarding it. Further, the passage says, because livelihood of many citizens is linked to the management of national park, local politicians often encourage state involvement in federal planning. But state legislature have not always addressed the fundamental policy issue of whether states should protect park. So it suggests a political angle also, because see what happens is that many adjacent citizens, their livelihood is dependent on that park. So strict laws are not there regarding that park, maybe the usage of that national park that way. How? I don't know, you also don't know until and unless we read it further. So how it is there? See here. Timber harvesting, ranching, energy exploration, they compete with the wildlife ecosystem. So these things are happening, timber harvesting, ranching, and all these things, due to which the forest is getting affected by the people. Additionally, so priorities among the land use are not generally established by the current legislation. As outside the park, we know the passage said before also, there is no legislation outside the park. So people are using it the way they want. Additionally, what's happening? Often no mechanism exists to coordinate planning by the state environmental regulatory agencies. So there is no coordination also between the state environmental agencies with the state. So these are those factors that impact the legislation aimed at protecting the park. That's it. Further, author says even if these deficiencies can be overcome, state participation must be consistent with existing legislation. Whose idea is this? Even if this. So author is writing the RC, so it means these are all author's personal opinion. If it were a news, author would have said that this has been said by this and this, or that and that authority, or that and that person. But no source is there, just an add-on information. It means this is quoted by the author itself. Further, so state lacks the jurisdiction within National Park Reserve, therefore state solution cannot reach activity inside the park. So whatever they are saying, this is just a repeat of the idea that has already been told to us before. So idea repetition is going on. Under the supremacy clause, federal law regulation supersedes state action if state law conflict with federal legislation. If Congress precludes local regulation, or if federal regulation is so pervasive that no room remains for state control. So since local regulation is not the higher one, local regulation is at the lower part. If some national regulation or a higher authority regulation comes, then local regulation fails. So that is another reason they are saying, okay, is it something new? Well, not new, but okay, fine. Assuming that federal regulation leave open possibility of state. So now let's assume something. State participation must be harmonized with existing federal legislation. So this portion is something which is representing the author's opinion more clearly, that exactly what author suggests could be a remedy. This might be of use in the questions. Then further, lastly, the passage says the resident of the states bordering the national park are affected by park management policies. Oh, so the problem is not just inside the park, but the residents also face the problems due to the management policy. They in turn affect the success of those policies. So because of these people also, the park policies are also not fully being affected. This interrelationship must be considered in responding to external threats problem. Local participation is necessary in deciding how to protect wildlife. It means local participation is not there. Yeah, because law is limited to the park, not for the locals who are living outside that national park. Local interest should not, however, dictate national policy. So again, local interest should not dictate the national policy, nor they should be used as pretext to ignore the threats to park region. So author wants it to be from both the sides. Neither the local interest should be too heavy that it should go against the park, or nor their interest should be ignored. A balanced viewpoint in this RC. Now comes the question. So the very first says that what is the main purpose of the author in writing the passage. So see the word author, it means our answer is going to be something which is exactly either these things that we just highlighted, that what is the what exactly author want to say, not what is going on. So what is going on? What is the factual information? Factual information is that the state legislature is not that much powerful, and the national park is getting affected, and it like the people are not people are also facing problem, and they are also causing problem to the park management and everything, right? But this is the news. But what was the main purpose of the author? Main purpose of the author was trying to provide solution, different solution, right? Okay, now let's check the options, which is our suitable option. Option A says argue that rampant timber harvesting is degrading national park. Well, this is something very different. This is not the main purpose. So this is a wrong information, because main purpose should be something that author is willing to tell. Author is willing to give the solution of the problem, not timber harvesting. This is even not there in the passage. So this is something alien option. What is an alien option? Alien option means which is not having any significance in the passage. Second one, describe a plan of action to resolve an issue. Author is describing a plan of action. Well, that is no. Author is willing to resolve an issue, but to resolve an issue, author is providing just some suggestion. But if we say describe a plan of action, well, author has not given a plan of action. Plan of action means to do this, to do that. That is not there. So B is not the answer. C. C says author discuss different approaches to deal with the problem. I think this is very accurate. This is exactly what we were just discussing and looking. This can be the answer. Should I mark it? No. Put it on hold. Maybe D and E has a better option. And then we say, D and E is better than that. So let us see the other options, then we will decide. D says, suggest that local participation is necessary to solve the problem described. Yes, this is true, but this is only one suggestion. Author tried to give you 2 to 3 suggestions. So there were multiple suggestions. There were multiple approaches to solve the problem, not just one. So if we go with D, it is just saying that local participation is necessary. But if you see the last part of the passage, it was saying now that not only local, so this is one thing, local participation is necessary. However, a national policy should also favor the locals. So there were 2 things author suggested, not one. So D is very limited and narrow to its scope. So narrow option is eliminated. E. E says to assert that national parks are adversely affected by activities outside their boundaries. Was author asserting that national parks are affected? This is nothing to be asserted. Asserting means to say something positive, that like asserting someone ki this is it, this is how it is done, don't worry, everything will be okay. Was that or saying something in a positive way mostly? So was it there said in a positive way? And other point, and this can be seen in other way also, that this is a factual information. Author's purpose, when we say, is exactly what the author want to say, not the facts. So this also makes E get eliminated, and of course C is our answer. Hopefully your answer was also C. If not, if you got a different answer, you can comment it if you still have a doubt. Okay guys, now let's see the next question. The passage provides support for which of the following assertion? Okay, so here to we have to read each and every option and see whether that option is something which will support the passage, like no, which will get its support from the passage. I mean an option which will be true because its information, its backup, its proof in the passage is true. That kind of option we have to find. Don't worry, let's find out with a cool mind. A says the National Park Organic Act gave the Secretary of Interior the right to overrule state government policy in land adjacent to national parks. So there is this act, it gave the right that state government policy will be overruled in land adjacent to national park. Well, see, assertion Passage assertion, see guys, assertion is not the author's opinion. Assertion is not the author's opinion. Assertion is what the fact says. So here we are referring to the facts of the passage and not the author's opinion, right? This one is something which will support the author's opinion. We need it for the passage. So we cannot go with A. Understanding? Because this is overruling thing is not what is the assertion, what is required. Well, now second, let us see. The federal government has been selling national park land to state government in order to raise money for wildlife conservation. Do we have a proof, or do we have something written in the passage that will prove that B is right? Once again, let us read that the government, federal government, the central government in our country, they have federal government in their country. Well, they are selling national park land. Is it there in the RC anywhere? No. In fact, this is referring to something very different, and this is very alien thing. This is not what the passage is discussing, so we cannot go with B. Let's go with C. C says the actions of state governments have often failed to promote the interest of national park wildlife. I think this is exactly what is there in the passage. We have to choose that option now, whose proof is there in the passage. So we have C, its proof is clearly there in the passage, and it was said twice, I think, towards the first part, towards the last part, that state government have failed to promote the interest of the wildlife. This is even the main theme of the passage. So when we say the assertion, this also goes towards the main idea of the passage. So definitely C is a good contender, good option. Let's take D and E, then make the final decision. D says local politicians want the federal government to turn control of national park over to state government. Local politicians want this. This was not told in the passage. So the local politicians were just mentioned in the passage, that local politician, they help the citizen locally to achieve their goals, like timber harvesting or fuel or something like that. But it is not written that they want to control and all these things. This is very alien option. This is not the right representative of the passage, in fact. E. Timber harvesting and energy exploration have not had any impact. Wow, no, not at all. This is really a wrong option, because this thing is timber harvesting, energy exploration is what the locals are doing. That's why the national park is getting decorated from outside. That is why this passage is written. So of course it cannot be E. So we are left with C. So answer is C. Let's check the next question. In the context of the passage, the phrase external degradation refers to which of the following? So we have the phrase now, external degradation. Do you need to see the RC once again? No. So find that option which exactly refers to the external degradation. So an option that might say an option that might say that the park is getting degraded, maybe by the people or something like that. Well, first let's see the options. A says threat to national parks arising from House of Representatives. Oh, is the national park having some threat from House of Representatives? No. In fact, they are fighting to save the national park. They are doing the discussions. So A is completely a wrong option. Nothing to be discussed more about A. Option number B. Threats to national park arising from state government environmental policies. So state government is making some environmental policies that is causing threat. This is also very wrong. This is also not the external degradation. External degradation was basically something people were doing and local politicians were helping them. Sorry. Third, threat to national parks arising from local politicians calls for greater state involvement in national park planning. Exactly. Okay, so threat to national park arising from, but wait, the threat is arising from local politicians' call. Are local politicians calling for greater state involvement? Well, no, local politician in the national. This is done by the local politician, but this is a good thing. We have to say something regarding external degradation. Well, if I see B and C now, between B and C, B is still a correct option, but C is wrong, because we have to say something. What is the meaning of external degradation? It says local politicians are involved in national park planning. So C means the local politicians are trying to do good to the national park, but the passage suggested the opposite. So this is actually, in fact, I should write this option is opposite to what the external degradation in the passage should mean. Achha, if we see threat to national park arising House of Representatives, that is completely wrong. But once again, if I see option number B, national park threat arising from state government environmental policies, we have to reconsider B. Of course, I was saying that B is a wrong option, but the passage external degradation may suggest B also as the answer. Well, let's see the next two options and then give a final decision. D says threats to national parks arising from national park organic. Oh, is this act causing a threat to the national park? No, this act is protecting the national park. National park is having threat from outside environment. That too, and what is there outside? Outside there is state governments, there is state. So B makes more sense in comparison to D. So either it is B or it is E. E says threat to national park arising from lack of local support. Now very competing option B and E. Now locals are not supporting the national park. That is partly true, because locals are, but one thing is there, it's not about support or not support. The word support which is mentioned, this is not the right word, because it is not that they are not supporting the law. Locals are supporting the law, locals are supporting the national park. They are just someone who needs timber, who need fuel from the forest. So all these things are there. Now B or E. B says national park is having threat from the state government environmental policy. So imagine the case that if state, and the passage is also saying this, that if state government becomes strict regarding the environmental policy, why state government not strict? Because the politicians are not strict regarding this. I'm not saying, passage was saying, isn't it? So yep, so B is a better option in comparison to E. See, E looks correct. E is a very tempting option, but E is a narrow option. It is narrow in scope. We should not choose a narrow in scope option, and we should always try to find that option which is covering exactly what it is asked. And if external degradation has its scope over the entire passage, then go for the option whose scope is over the entire passage, not whose scope is towards the narrow passage side. Hopefully it's clear. If not, comment it. I will explain it, re-explain it there. Okay, fine. Let's see the last question now. According to the passage, which of the following developments is most likely if environmental cooperation between the federal government and state government does not improve? Before leaving, subscribe. Come on guys, that much so you can do. I am helping you with your exam preparation and I want you to do good. Just that's what I'm asking. S-U-B-S-C-R-A-B-E. Okay. Let's come back to the question. So, which development is most likely if environmental cooperation between federal and state does not improve? So, the answer is something which is already happening, because it is saying that if the relation doesn't improve, if nothing improve, what will happen? Answer should be that whatever is happening, it will keep on happening. It may even increase. Logic? So let's find out which option supports this. A says a further decline in land area of national park. Is the land area getting reduced? Is this the problem? No, this is not discussed in the passage. This is a wrong option. So we can even say this is not discussed. It's an alien option. B option, a further increase in federal ownership. So if nothing improves, federal ownership will further increase. How? How? Nothing is happening. How will ownership of land increase to someone? So B doesn't make sense. We should have some logical thing. C, a further growth in the power of National Park Service. How will ownership thing increase, or how will growth in power increase? Tell me this. These are non-tangible, abstract things. If nothing is happening, if cooperation is not happening, it is still the same. Something which is still the same will have the same effect. Its effect will still be constant. Yeah, if it is deteriorating, then deterioration will keep on happening. Deterioration might increase. But if something which is constant, ownership, power, how will it increase or decrease? Doesn't make sense. So that's why B and C, both of it doesn't make sense. D says a further loss of species in national park. Well, this is a very alien option because loss of species was not even described. So what is it? It is E. E says further increase in timber harvesting activities. Is it the right answer? Why not? Because if the government, if both the state and federal government are not cooperating, so people will keep on harvesting timber. So timber harvesting activities will increase because they know that no one is going to watch us. So they will increase the timber harvesting activity. Who? The local people. So this will keep on degrading the forest, the national park. So of course answer becomes E. Hey, hope you enjoyed the RC number 1. Subscribe to this channel, and my next video will discuss RC number 2. So here is the passage number 2. We are going to discuss this one. So if you have the RC 99 PDF, you can read it and you can keep your solutions ready. In the next video, we are going to discuss the next RC. Thank you. Have a nice day.